If you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, you know it's not just a fishing show, it's a fight for survival on icy, dangerous seas. And among all the boats, the Cornelia Marie stood out. Fans loved its crew, its daring spirit, and the wild stories it brought to our screens. But then, after a few unforgettable seasons, something strange happened. The Cornelia Marie vanished from the show without warning, and fans were left asking, what happened? Join us as we uncover the real reason behind its sudden disappearance and why it shocked everyone. But to understand the context, let's take a look at the details from the very beginning. The harsh world of Deadliest Catch. Deadliest Catch is an American reality TV series that first aired on the Discovery Channel on April 12, 2005. It follows crab fishermen working in the dangerous waters of the Bering Sea during the Alaskan king, crab, and snow crab fishing seasons. The fishing fleet works out of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, in the Aleutian Islands. The name of the show comes from the high risk of injury or death in this job. Viewers see the dangers on deck as fishermen handle heavy crab pots, move hundreds of pounds of crab, and lean over the rails to position the pots while strong winds and high waves slam into the boat. Each episode focuses on a story or situation happening on one or more boats, while side stories show the lives and backgrounds of some of the crew, especially rookies known as greenhorns. The captains are an important part of the show, and their friendships and rivalries are often shown as they race to catch crab. There are also family ties between some of the captains and crews, like brothers Sig, Norm, and Edgar Hansen on the Northwestern, the Hillstrand brothers on the Time Bandit, and brothers Keith and Monty Colburn on the Wizard. The U.S. Coast Guard often appears in the series rescuing crew members in trouble, and has been featured in tragic events such as the loss of the FV Big Valley in 2005, the FV Ocean Challenger in 2006, and the FV Katmai in 2008. The Cornelia Marie's role in the series. From the start, Deadliest Catch became one of the Discovery Channel's most successful shows, and it is now watched all over the world. It is known for showing the hard reality of crab fishing and the personalities of the fishermen who take on the dangerous job. One of the most famous boats on the show is the Cornelia Marie. Fans quickly connected with this vessel and its crew, and it became one of the best-known commercial fishing boats in the world. But the Cornelia Marie's time on the show has not always been smooth. Over the years, the boat has faced hard times, including losing crew members. It was even cut from the show in the past. These challenges made the Cornelia Marie's journey a mix of both high points and painful moments. Still, the boat remained a favorite among viewers, and its absence from the show was something fans noticed right away. After being part of many memorable episodes, its disappearance left questions in the minds of the audience, making them wonder what really happened behind the scenes. Speaking of which, the Cornelia Marie's legacy is deeply tied to Captain Phil Harris, the man who brought it to life for millions of viewers. The life and career of Captain Phil Harris. Born on December 19, 1956, Phil started fishing with his father when he was only 8 years old. That early start gave him skills and experience that would shape his life. After high school, he jumped straight into crab fishing. Like many in the industry, he started at the bottom, working as an unpaid deckhand. But Phil had the drive to prove himself. Over time, he earned the respect of other fishermen, and by the age of 21, he became one of the youngest crab boat captains on the Bering Sea. His leadership style was tough but fair, and his personality made him stand out. In 1989, the Cornelia Marie was commissioned for Ralph Collins and named after his wife, Cornelia. After the couple divorced, Cornelia took ownership. Phil eventually bought a partial share, and his connection to the boat grew stronger each year. By the time Deadliest Catch began filming in 2004, Phil had already been captain for many years. His boat first appeared in the Opilio crab portion of Season 1, partnering with the FV Maverick. By Season 2, it was a regular part of the series. Phil and his crew were also heavily involved in the search for the FV Big Valley after it sank, a reminder that fishing in the Bering Sea was not just dangerous, but life-threatening. Phil's own health had been tested before his final season. In 2008, during a storm, he was thrown from his bunk and thought he had broken his ribs. He spent hours coughing up blood before his sons and crew convinced him to seek medical help. Doctors found he had suffered a pulmonary embolism, a serious condition that kept him off the boat for almost a year. But Phil's determination brought him back for the Opilio season in January 2009, showing his love for the sea and his refusal to give up the job he lived for. The final days of Captain Phil Harris. Phil's last chapter came during the filming of Season 6 in January 2010. While offloading Opilio crab at St. Paul Island, Alaska, he collapsed in his stateroom after suffering a stroke. Earlier that day, he had complained about feeling extremely tired. Second-year engineer Steve Ward found him on the floor, conscious but unable to move his left leg or hand. Ward acted quickly, calling for paramedics and bringing Josh and Jake to his side. According to Deadliest Catch producer Tom Beers, Phil insisted that the filming continue. "Dude, you've got to. We've got to have an end to the story," he told them. For Phil, this wasn't just about television. It was about showing the bond between fathers and sons, the kind of connection that fishing families understood. He was flown to Anchorage for emergency brain surgery to relieve pressure and swelling. At first, there was hope. Phil woke from a medically induced coma, was able to talk, and even squeezed hands. His doctors were stunned by his rapid progress, saying he was achieving in days what most stroke patients took months to accomplish. But after 11 days in intensive care, tragedy struck. On February 9, 2010, Phil Harris died from an intracranial hemorrhage. He was 53 years old. Phil was cremated. Half of his ashes were buried in a Harley-Davidson gas tank, painted in ornate detail, along with the remains of his mother. The other half were scattered at sea from the deck of the Cornelia Marie. His sons released a statement. "It is with great sadness that we say goodbye to our dad, Captain Phil Harris. Dad has always been a fighter and continued to be until the end. For us and the crew, he was someone who never backed down." His final days were shown in Season 6, and the footage served as both a farewell and a tribute. Discovery hosted a memorial service on the Seattle waterfront where his sons spoke. Boats in the harbor gave a final salute, and after the catch honored him with a New Orleans-style jazz funeral performed by the Soul Rebels Brass Band. It was a fitting send-off for a man whose life at sea left a mark on everyone who knew him and every viewer who followed his story. The Cornelia Marie's long history on Deadliest Catch. You see, the Cornelia Marie is one of the most recognizable vessels in Deadliest Catch history. With its bright blue and yellow hull and long presence on the show, it's a boat that even casual viewers would know. For many seasons, it wasn't just another crab fishing vessel, it was part of the heart of the series. Until Season 6, the Cornelia Marie was led by Captain Phil Harris, a fan favorite whose leadership and personality made the boat stand out. Phil was more than just a captain. He was also a co-owner, deeply connected to the vessel and the people on it. Under his command, the Cornelia Marie faced the dangerous conditions of the Bering Sea season after season, becoming one of the 4 main boats featured on the show. But in 2010, tragedy struck when Phil passed away at just 53 years old. His death wasn't just a blow to his family and crew. It deeply affected fans all over the world. His final days were filmed, giving viewers one last look at his courage and determination. After Phil's passing, the Cornelia Marie faced a period of change. His sons, Josh and Jake, stepped in, but they were known for their sibling rivalry. They tried to earn enough money to buy the boat themselves, but at first, they couldn't make it happen. Eventually, Josh partnered with Captain Casey McManus to purchase the vessel. Starting in Season 10, Josh and Casey took over as captains, continuing the Cornelia Marie's legacy and keeping it a part of Deadliest Catch. The decision to invest in the Cornelia Marie. The Cornelia Marie is one of the best-known commercial fishing boats in the world, thanks to both its history and its role on television. But even a famous vessel needs serious work after years in the brutal Bering Sea. When Roger Thomas and his partner, Kari Toivola, started looking for a Bering Sea crab fishing investment, Roger reached out to Casey McManus. Casey had captained the Cornelia Marie and was a shareholder in the boat. After talking with Josh Harris, another owner, they came back to Thomas and Toivola with an offer, a 50% stake in the famous vessel. In January 2015, the two flew to Dutch Harbor to inspect her. From the dock, the Cornelia Marie still had her classic aft cabin design and that striking 128 by 28-foot ultramarine blue hull. She looked much the same as when she was custom-built in 1989 by Horton Boats in Bayou La Batre, Alabama. But the inspection revealed problems. About 70% of the steel deck under the accommodation block was badly damaged and needed replacing. Her two 650-horsepower Mitsubishi main engines were worn out, and two of the three generators also needed replacing. Still, the boat's strengths were clear. She could pack huge amounts of crab or salmon in her 6 insulated holds, up to 315,000 pounds of live crab in circulating seawater, or 630,000 pounds of salmon in refrigerated seawater when tendering. She was also used for herring tendering. As Thomas put it, "We knew that, if we bought shares in her, she would require new engines and new decking under the accommodation area. Experience with risk and the purchase. Buying a large, older boat that's been heavily worked is not for the faint of heart." But Thomas and Toivola were no strangers to risk. Back in 1986, when they were still in their 20s, they borrowed money and used their fishing earnings to buy an offshore supply vessel in Louisiana. It was during a downturn in the oil industry, so they got the 125-foot boat for far less than it would have cost to build in 1981. With help from experienced fishermen, they converted her into a crabber and sailed her, now named Deception, to Seattle for final preparations. They fished her successfully for almost 30 years. But compared to the Cornelia Marie, she carried far less, especially when tendering salmon. The decision to buy into the Cornelia Marie was made in March 2015, and equipment was ordered immediately. By the time the deal officially closed in April, new engines were already on the way. They chose electronic-controlled 750-horsepower Cummins QSK 19-M diesels to replace the main engines, a modern version of the mechanical Cummins KTA 19ES they had put in the Deception a decade earlier. We put mechanical Cummins KTA 19S in the Deception 10 years ago, and they have given good service. So we went with the new version of the same engine, Thomas explained. The race to get the work done. In fishing, schedules are tight, and there was no time to waste. The Cornelia Marie had a Bristol Bay tendering job lined up, starting in mid-June, so the clock was ticking. She arrived in Seattle on March 17th and went straight to the shipyard. Within an hour, she was in dry dock. The main accommodation area, including the mess and galley, was gutted. The concrete floor and the steel beneath it were torn out. For much of the time that we were working on the boat, we had plywood over the steel framings for the floor, Toivola recalled. The new engines arrived only 3 weeks after the boat reached Seattle, and just a week after the deal had closed. Because both the old and new mains were inline 6-cylinder engines, modifying the engine beds wasn't too difficult. To avoid cutting into the hold liners and insulation, and with much of the accommodation already removed, they decided to take the old engines out and put the new ones in through a hole cut in the front of the house. Roger Thomas oversaw the engine replacement himself. "I've done quite a few repowers," he said. The old gears had different ratios, so they replaced them with new twin-disc gears with a 4.5-to-1 reduction. The original 56-inch propellers were repitched, and the shafts were pulled and machined. Cummins Northwest assigned former Crabber and Time Bandit engineer Mike Fortner as their liaison for the job. "Mike is a great guy, and he was a lot of help," Thomas said. "I could call him, or he would stop by." Sea trials and ready for Alaska. By late May, the engines were ready to start. Sea trials took place on June 2nd, with Cummins regional manager Tony Thomas and application engineers Brian Pinkstaff and Joe Tobin on board. They found the propeller pitch was a little too much, but with the Bristol Bay tendering commitment just days away, they decided to leave it as it was. On June 6th, only 10 weeks after arriving in Seattle, the Cornelia Marie headed north. Along with the new main engines, she had 2 new generators, a new galley and accommodations, and half of the steel under the wood deck replaced. Many smaller projects had also been completed during the overhaul. McManus, Thomas, and Toivola were all on board for the sea trials, along with Jack Mullen, who would captain the boat for the tendering work. Sitting at the new galley table, Thomas was already thinking ahead to the crab season in the fall. "We expect to put a lot of crab through her," he said. "With our own and leased quota, we are planning for about 200,000 pounds, each of king crab and Bairdi, and another 1,000,000 pounds of Opilio." With the refit complete, the Cornelia Marie was ready to return to Alaska's waters, stronger than ever, and prepared for the challenges ahead. Speaking of which, for years, the Cornelia Marie remained a regular presence on the show, appearing in season after season. But in season 13, it was suddenly absent. Why the Cornelia Marie disappeared? Viewers immediately noticed the missing blue and yellow hull and wanted answers. Josh Harris explained that the absence wasn't due to a money dispute or bad blood with the network. He made it clear it was a production decision made by Discovery. In October 2016, Josh Harris addressed fans directly through a video he posted on social media. In it, he revealed that the Cornelia Marie would not be returning to Deadliest Catch for Season 13. His message was straightforward and honest. "We do not have a camera crew aboard this king crab season. This was not our decision, and it was not made by the owners nor the captains of the Cornelia. This was not a dispute over money. This was simply a decision made by production at Discovery. They have creative control over pretty much everything that airs in Deadliest Catch, and we respect that." Josh stressed that even though they wouldn't be part of the show that season, the crew was still going to be out at sea, fishing like always. They would be doing the work they loved, but they would be doing it without the cameras that had been part of their lives for so many years. He spoke about how much that change would affect them. "The film crew has been like a family to us, and their absence will weigh heavy on our hearts." His words showed how close the relationship between the crew and the production team had become over the years. The bond went beyond just filming. It was personal. But without the cameras, fans wouldn't see the Cornelia Marie that season. And for many viewers, that absence was deeply felt. The boat had been a familiar presence on the show for years, and suddenly it was gone, leaving fans curious and disappointed. A return and personal challenges. When Season 14 came around, the Cornelia Marie was back. The return was met with excitement from viewers who had missed seeing the blue and white vessel battling the Bering Sea. For Josh, it was important to clear up any rumors. He explained there had been no falling out with Discovery, no disagreements over contracts, and no hidden disputes. The break had happened because of what was going on in his personal life, not because of problems with the network. Josh shared that he had been dealing with serious family issues during the time away. These included the death of his grandfather, Captain Grant Harris, which had hit him hard. "I had multiple people in the ICU at the same time, and that put a kibosh on things. I had to be home," he said. Being there for his family was his priority, and he made it clear that certain moments in life didn't need to be filmed for television. He was speaking about the long hours spent in hospitals, the stress of not knowing what would happen, and the emotional weight of it all. That was not the kind of footage he wanted to share with the world. Once those difficult months passed, Josh was ready to return, and fans were quick to welcome the Cornelia Marie back to their screens in 2019. It wasn't just the return of a boat. It was the return of a symbol of resilience that had been part of the Deadliest Catch family for years. When the boat returned in Season 14, much to the relief of fans, it stayed on the show until Season 18. Then it disappeared again, this time for far more serious reasons. Before Season 19, troubling reports surfaced about Josh Harris. According to Radar, Discovery learned that Josh had been sentenced in 1999 to 9 months in prison for sexually assaulting a minor. He had pleaded to a lesser charge and undergone a psychosexual exam as part of his sentence. When this information became public, Discovery decided to completely cut ties. Josh was not invited back to Deadliest Catch or its spin-offs, and the Cornelia Marie was pulled from the show entirely. Casey McManus later shared on social media that their contracts and the boats were not renewed. He called it a bummer deal, and with some frustration referred to the show as smoke and mirrors. For Discovery, it was simpler to remove the Cornelia Marie from the fleet than try to work around the fact that Josh still owned part of it. That decision ended the boat's long run on the series after Season 18, leaving fans shocked at the quiet but permanent departure. Life after the show for the crew. Once the Cornelia Marie was out of Deadliest Catch, the changes were immediate. Captain Casey McManus, who had been a staple on the program for years, found himself without a role. Because the Cornelia Marie was his vessel, there was no way to simply move him to another boat for filming. This was reality television, and the reality was that his boat was gone from the series. Casey shifted his focus away from the cameras and took on a new line of work, pulling tugboats. He often shares photos from his new life at sea on Instagram, showing both the inside and outside of his current vessel. As for Josh Harris, his career with Discovery was over. He had once appeared in Deadliest Catch, Bloodlines alongside Casey and local fisherman Jeff Silva in 2020, but the legal history closed that chapter permanently. Tragedy continued to hit the Harris family as Jake Harris also faced serious struggles. He had been jailed for DUI in the past and later was arrested again for another DUI, with his substance abuse problems becoming public. Without the Cornelia Marie on screen, Seasons 19 and 20 of Deadliest Catch looked noticeably different to fans. For years, the boat had been part of the opening shots, the dock scenes, and the drama at sea. Now, it was simply gone. Even though it wasn't on television, the Cornelia Marie remained active in the fishing industry. But for the audience, the lack of updates on the show left a gap that no other vessels seemed to fill. A possible future for the Cornelia Marie. Even after 2 full seasons without it, many fans still hope to see the Cornelia Marie back on Deadliest Catch. On June 17, 2024, there was a sign that the story might not be over. Former cast member Taylor Jansen posted a photo on Instagram showing himself standing in front of the Cornelia Marie in dry dock. This was big news for fans who remembered Taylor from his time on the boat between 2018 and 2022. During that time, he worked as a deckhand, greenhorn, and engineer, and gained a reputation for his resilience. He suffered 3 serious injuries while working on the Cornelia Marie. First, he was thrown across the deck by a massive 80,000-gallon wave. Then he was struck on the head by a crab pot during hurricane conditions. And finally, he endured a severe finger injury in a freak accident. Now, with Taylor as a partner in the vessel, there's speculation that the Cornelia Marie could see a new chapter. It's unclear how his ownership fits with McManus's and Harris's shares. He might simply be using the boat for crab fishing without the Discovery Channel cameras. but some fans believe there's a chance Discovery could work out an agreement with the current owners to bring the Cornelia Marie back. For many viewers, seeing that famous blue hull return to Dutch Harbor would be a major moment. On social media, the boat still shares updates, showing that it's active and ready to work. And with Taylor's history on the show and his connection to fans, there's a sense that if the tides turn just right, the Cornelia Marie could make a comeback. Until then, its absence remains one of the biggest changes in Deadliest Catch history, and one that loyal viewers aren't ready to accept as final. Captain Casey McManus shows a new side. Former Deadliest Catch captain Casey McManus surprised fans with a new update on Instagram. In a recent video, he revealed he had been on a cruise through Southeast Alaska. He captioned the post, "Cruising with at Cunard Line through Southeast Alaska was incredible. I have never in my life received such an amazing level of treatment. The Queen herself would be jealous." In the clip, Casey appeared relaxed and happy as he spoke directly to viewers. Captain Casey, back with you. I know I haven't been around very much, but kind of doing something cool, something that nobody would ever expect out of me. I'm on a boat in Alaska, but it's a cruise ship, the Queen Elizabeth, and it's beautiful, he said. He shared how special the experience was, explaining that from the moment you step on board, you are treated like absolute royalty. Casey went on to praise Cunard Lines for being eloquent and decadent, and described the staterooms as absolutely beautiful. He also gave a tip for first-time cruisers, saying, "For those of you who haven't cruised before, the level of stateroom that you stay in dictates where you dine, so make sure you get nice accommodations." During the trip, Casey also joined the Bering Sea Crab Fisherman's Tour. He told fans, "They allowed me to be part of the crew for a half a day and go out with a tour before returning back to the ship." But it wasn't just the cruise that caught fans' attention. Throughout the video, Casey looked noticeably different. A subtitle at the end revealed he had lost nearly 100 pounds. His new appearance was quickly noticed, and fans flooded the comments with praise. One wrote, "So good to see you. You look great. You lost a lot of weight." Another added, "You look amazing, Captain Casey. Miss you on the shows. Glad you are still doing well." When one commenter suggested he had used Ozempic, another user asked directly how he had lost the weight. Casey responded, "I'll spill the beans on that a few posts from now." On the Deadliest Catch Reddit page, a fan shared the video saying, "I'm glad to see that he is doing well. He looks really good in that video he posted on Insta. Sucks that he changed careers, but it's amazing that he has taken care of himself and improved his life." Casey also teased that he would explain more in upcoming posts, leaving fans curious about what's next. What do you think about the Cornelia Marie's disappearance from Deadliest Catch? Do you think we'll ever see it make a return to the show? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time!